Hello, hello, I'm Joseph Crudup, and welcome to my storybook. Today, this is the part 14 in this book called TDJs Before You Do. This is the part 14 in this book. Chapter 14, Before You Have Children. Making the decision to have a child is momentous. It is to decide forever to have your heart go walking around outside your body. As the preparations for my daughter's wedding accelerated, I recently found myself overwhelmed by another emotion-packed moment. Suddenly, the little girl in pigtails, playing dress-up in her mother's closet, had stepped into singing pumps that now fit her, and a stunning white dress truly fit for the princess. My daughter stood before me as a beautiful bride in her wedding gown. I had never imagined such a scene with my wife, and I appreciated her arrival 2 decades ago. Nothing proving that was a god to like me watching my wife bore a child. An unbelievably scary mother of overwhelming joy and divine blessings. To the main standout of our intended sexual wonder came this person with eyes, lips, fingers, toes, personality, and dimples, staring into our baby's eyes, holding her in my arms. I was speechless. Here was a living price of piece. Here was a living piece of me, with my DNA and family, and infused into her. The burden of the child gets even the most spectacular person in entire life, as you live on dots the lives, features, and contributions of Lord children. The process of deciding to have children can be a wonderfully exciting time. Where parent books gather around, controversial conversations with siblings who have brother-in-law nieces and nephews, and catalogs for baby products. It's very challenging imposed to take into account all of the milestones, miracles, and misfits that will require your low relationship with your children. But certain considerations should be addressed long before you're in the doctor's office looking at sonograms or in delivering room holding a living, breathing a bundle of life. If you aren't aware of what you're getting into with the birth of a child, the consequences can be unintentionally painful for you both. We can see the devastating impact of the lives that experiences neglect, abuse, or addiction because their parents are too nearly and sought and to care for them. Currently, over 1.5 million children and tens and hundreds are and living on the streets of our country's cities. According to the American Academy of Child and Adolescent for the close to 100,000 incidents of child sexual abuse occur each year, and these are only report cases. None of us will choose to have our children become another status in these heart wrenching totals, while inviting emotional, physical, and physiological preparations cannot guarantee perfect feelings and can facilitate handling the demands of parenting with greater ease. Parents being coerced through parents trying to ignore, neglect, or harm their children. We all do the best we can, knowing that we will fail them, disappoint them, and hurt them despite our best intentions. No license required. Before you have children, you must think through the extermination, external, external demands that will be required of you. The only memory of being responsible for another human being can feel so overwhelming that we might be paralyzed in our tracks. And I don't mean to discourage everyone from experiences the joyful satisfaction that comes with raising a family. However, you will enjoy the experience much more fully and have a much happier relationship with your children if you examine the requirements before you do. No license or training is required to have kids, from riding in a car seat to driving the car. Our children are with us for the rest of our lives. Babies grow into toddlers, into preschools or schools, into children, into teens, into into young adults, into full-grown men and women. You must be willing to ride all the way through. They won't always wear the cool little outfits with the pink booties and their Michelin night bondage. They will not always look as cute as their baby photos. You can't exchange them or return them for the refund. The current average cost for raising a child until she's 18 is around $250,000. You might want to try, but you ain't having it. Before you have children, you must understand the life-changing commitment. You can't divorce the child no matter how painful the choices they make or how they turn out. If your child is prodigal, and jailbird, a crack dealer, and heroin addict, or a stripper, they are still your child. Every day, not just Mother's Day and Father's Day. You will be reminded of this life that you brought into the world. You must consider not just the capability in your body to grow a baby in your womb, but the capability in your life for that life to grow into a living, breathing, crying, laughing person. They will leave your body in 9 months, but they will never leave your life. Even if, God forbid, they should die before you do, their impact will not subside through their abscess. Before you have children, you must imagine the worst. It's easy to imagine the cook. Call to their hall motors when they leave the hospital. Take that first step. Take that first steps. Say their first words and have their first day of school. But think also about how you will respond when they become the neighborhood bully or get arrested for shoplifting while still in elementary school. What will you do when your teen comes home drunk or high with references on his breath? How will you deal with the unplanned teen pregnancy? You will be tempted to ask, when did we go wrong? How could this have happened to us? If you can't handle the weight of such a bundle, then you need to reconsider why you want to be a parent. Becoming a parent must be a deliberate choice. If you fall into it by accident, or if you go into it blindsided by precious mothers born or never, then you ask with sending another wounded child into the world. As you have seen from the poor chapters, I believe the relationship you enter into should create an emotional and physical space for your new life together. Wherever or not this space will include children is a momentous decision. one not to be taken lightly or left to an unexpected moment of passing. If you know you want to be a parent someday, then it helps to find someone else who cares your lovely. As you make decisions regarding potential parenthood, please keep in mind that so many of these are predicated on the foundation of poor decisions you have made. You may sincerely choose to be a single parent, but all the more reason to know what you're getting into before you do. Motivations for becoming a parent. You will often hear Oprah Winfrey remarks on her television talk show that raising a child is the hardest job in the world. She knows this and she's not even a mother. If you are considering having children, it is important to take time to ask yourself if you are emotionally, financially, and spiritually ready to do so. Examining the reasons for waiting to have children will do one of the two things. It will reveal that you are ready, that you understand that the act of nurturing a family will be at once the most rewarding and most difficult and dynamic task you will ever undertake. Or you will realize that perhaps you are not now, or may never be ready to have children. Not everyone is meant to be a parent. Our motivations to want children vary. Some of us want to have children for the right reasons, because we want to build a family until a family unit and feel that desires to selfish support. Another being into the matter, well-rounded adult. Let some of us have children for reasons that are less than desirable, one that are likely to result in a heartbreak for you and your innocent child. Reasons such as I want someone to love me, or I had children, or agreed to have children because my parent wanted them, and a million at best and recipes for disaster at worst. If you had thoughts like the latter, I would recommend some serious soul searching before proceeding down the road to becoming a parent. Not long. One of the greatest benefits of having a child is that your life is no longer your own. Your home is no longer your own. For women, even your bodies are no longer your own. As difficult as it as can be to make room for a child, both literally and figuratively, in all dimensions of your life, it can help you become less self-centered and more compassionate when you no longer think of only yourself. You in equal ways to not do to that do not occur in any other relationship. The biggest bridge the practically everyday aspects of life with the entire privilege of being God's factor letter for being another so into existence. You must learn to address both of these errors. Let's think through some of these preparations, starting with the practicality. Before you have a child, you must baby-proof the ruins of your home to protect your little one from harm. This includes patterning sharp edges of furniture, especially tables, removing glass and other breakable objects, and locking all drawers and cabinets. Better yet, you need to remove all cleaners, soaps, lotions, and anything containing chemicals that could poison your baby. Such preparations for your baby's arrival are on the tip of the parenting iceberg. From these measures, ladies, you must drill down to a more personal level and consider potential care, which may require a level of discipline and such sacrifice that you never experienced when considering on your own life. With no heart beating inside your body now, you will need to give up smoking, alcohol, and have your physical reveal any medications you may be taking from that affair on the some embargo inside you. You will need to exercise and to eat nutritious while balancing meals. You will need to make sure you get incredible vitamins and minerals, particularly for those, which is essential for the baby's natural development. 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 Adequate rest and relax is essential during pregnancy, especially when you consider the sleepless nights ahead of your newborn acclimates to a regular schedule. Preparing a space for baby or nestling will include processes such as a bed, changing table, and a creditor double simple supply. Some baby toys, clothing, clothing, and other accompaniments. Don't forget, don't forget pretzels. Pretzels will also be on your list. Many women enjoy their preparatory activities, and they can be shared with your husband or other family members to create a bond of appetitions. However, do not be discouraged if you have no interest in such activities. You don't need to be Martha Stewart, or undertake an extreme home makeover to have a baby. It's just more important to work from the inside out and prepare yourself first than use surroundings. Parenting without being a parent. Being a good example to kids in our scholarship is not just a job for parents. We are all children at one point. Think about the impact that having just one adult in your life who care for you and took an internet in your as a person had on you. And if you didn't have this, think about what effects that had. No matter who you are or where you go, wherever you have children or not, there is some lone person who needs your support, guidance, or a kind coercion that could change the direct of their life for the better. If you had kids, remember that whether you are aware or not, they are always watching. What you say, how you act, what you do in certain situations is the model for the person they are likely to become. If you don't have kids, consider voluntarily for a children's organization, become a big brother or big sister. Give time to an after school program, a church organization, or reaching out to a children in your family, a niece, a nephew, or a long cousin. The world can be hard. The world can be a hard, confusing, and lonely place for the child alone. A strong, encouraging relationship with an adult can make all the difference in the person they turn out to be. That ain't dilemma. That ain't dilemma. While women experiences a traumatic upheaval in their bodies, men may experience greater trauma, and how a child impacts their marriage. Regardless of how much both parents want a child and prepare for her arrival, she will definitely change the dynamic between the two of you. No matter how much joy a child's arrival brings, daddies, and baby takes another little price of your response. Their attention, their focus, their time shuts for you to this little helpless infant requires them 24/7. This shift usually occurs as the mother is naturally proceeding part with her new bondage of joy while the father is left to change diapers and wondering when he can enjoy being sexually intimate again with a woman he married. One minute you're anticipating an evening with candlelights, soft jazz, and shell lingo, and the next you're hoping to grab a nap, order a pizza, and watch your wife's nursery grown. You go from having her burrow into your skin to watching her well played dog on postboard or hormones are roller coastering all over the place, and your lumber only essentials like an accessor. When the kids are school age, she's exactly baking cookies for the class bake sale, and there's no cooking left for you. You will never be the same. You must be patient, man, and realize that she misses you just as much as you miss her. It may require delayed gratification, but if your wife sees how much you love the baby, the product of the love for each other, then she will appreciate you all the more. Once the baby is on a schedule and her body has recovered, she will once again show you how love in the physical forms to her which you have become accustomed more. Other than your paces, your encouragement is essential during the transition of having a new family member. Most women lose their pregnancy weight, but many do not. And the rate fertilitationers, the stretch marks, the lesion, and wrinkles from lack of sleep. Though wife may no longer feel beautiful, you must remind her that you love her, stretch marks and all. You made a commitment to love her dog, richer and poorer, sickness, and in health. This includes weight fresheners, lacquers, and bags under her eyes from lack of sleep. Being a parent can bring out the inner beauty of each parent, the love, compassion, and sacrifice that you both willing to give to this new life you had created together. Finally, you can show love for your wife by being as helpful and particular as possible, offering to give the child a bottle for her 2 a.m. feeding. Don't wait to be asked to change a diaper, take charge of preparing the meals or ordering out, and weddings and messes or surprise lunch with girlfriends for your wife will you keep the baby. Showing your wife that you committed to your partnership in raising the child goes a long way towards finding the new rhythm of your relationship. Man, don't wait until after that she informs you of her condition to discuss your feelings towards parenthood and more importantly towards her pregnancy. Voice your fears and concerns. If you worried about never having sex after the kids were born, then state that and make a plan for the two of you get away after several months when the baby can be left with grandma or Aunt Louise. Make your preparations as the child's father and Lord White's competent and intentional, flat out delatable decision. Both your wife and you, your children, will all know this and love you all the more. Picture balance. The hardest part of being a parent is giving your child enough guidance and support to be the best person they can be, and then when the time is right, standing back and letting them go off into the world and making the inventable mistakes we all make while learning who we are. We want to protect our children from pain and disappointment, but the truth is, pain and disappointment are a part of life. Giving your child part of life. Giving your child the tools they need to succeed in the world. A strong foundation of faith and an education is your job as a parent, as is having the courage to let them go, to spread their wings and find their way. With you there with open arms of support and continuing encouragement should they stumble along the journey. Should they stumble along the journey. Parental guidance. The other large consideration is that you must think through before having children involves the lifetime commitment to their well-being. Every time one of my children has graduated from high school, or when I see my daughter in her wedding dress, I, I tear up and think, I made it. Those moments are milestones that deserve to be celebrated. Somehow that child, that mother, and I all survived the many late nights past curfew, early morning off, early mornings off to school, a last minute completion of school assessments. We survived the storms and fantastic phone calls, the constant testing and insensitive process. My temptation was to believe that somehow once they had graduated or married they had arrived. Before congratulating myself too much. Now I'm worried about their job and their marriage, their Francis, their finances, their relationships, and the new families they themselves are beginning. Even through your children grow into adults, there will always be something about them that concerns you. Family never ends. In Genesis 49, we see that Jacob, on his deathbed, talking to his children, blessing them, even in his dying breaths. He was warning about his children and setting a foundation for their further without him. When Jesus was dying on the cross, his mother was there, graving his in agonizing passes. Our responsibilities to our children go up along the grave. When we bring a new life into this world, we create a tie that death cannot break. But before you tie it, be sure you can stand the teasings that the tie will bring, and I promise you it will be poor, stretching and pull some more. But we can do our part to keep the tie strong and not allow it to break because we're sleeping on the job. I become recuperated guest on the Dr. Phil show, and often we constant parents who wondering how their child ended up with an unplanned pregnancy or a drug addiction. Now, as I said before, parents can do everything as best they can and still have these situations before their children. However, sometimes we must make sure that we are doing all we possibly can to protect our children from the mirror, their peers, and our culture. On one Dr. Phil show, we discovered a middle school where factories were passing out condoms to 13-year-olds without parental consent. On this same program, one mother permitted her 13-year-old daughter to have sex in their home. She was clearly more worried about being her daughter's friend than her mother. Now, I'm not by any stretch the treat fairly, and I live in a world and I live in the real world and have a family when this issue has been front and center. But anytime we condone and promote sex between children, we're sucking to a pet. And before you think I'm just being an uptight preacher, let me assure let me assure you that this is about good partnering, not religion. Before you had a shin- Before you had a child, you must have dealt with enough alone issues to have the monetary that will allow your child to be angry at you and at times dislike you. No matter what we'll teach them, our kids are can our kids can fall short. But if we lower our standards, then look how low they will go. If we let 20-year-olds participate in adult activities, then we will be, then we will be, then when will it be 10-year-olds or 6-year-olds? How can we fight to protect our kids from predators? Will we turn down the bed and invite them in? Someday you will lose the need to be your child's disciplinary, and then you can tell them the inside story and become their friend. But you must not you must earn that right to be their friend by being their mother or father first. They need a balance setting parent to protect them more than they need a one friend. Part of the job part of the job of parenting. parenting. Children face a world that is full of negative influence today, no matter how much we try to protect them, and they are looking to and need you to act their moral and spiritual compass. In a given day, your kids are bombarded in advancement and television programs, movies, music, videos, magazines, and website charts full of amazing success, violence, drugs, and alcohol abuse, and mentalization. Much of it is globalizing and fear to them in such a manner that they begin to feel vulnerable. If they don't have the latest cell phone by the age of 12, or the last designer handbag or shoe at 14, the MTV program, my super sweet 16-year-old boys and girls dressed in design, clothing, looked like rap video hooligans, and hundreds women than teenage kids who are just uh, um, sportsmen, sophomores who are just sophomores and juniors in high school. The chapters are tactically children of business mortgages or celebrities, planning embroidery, sometimes $1 million parents, going all the days of cake and ice cream and of fruit balloons in the basement. These kids receive humors and masturbates for gifts before they even hand out driver's license. If it's your job, it is your job as a parent to contact this county influence by setting an example for your children, teaching them that while most of us enjoy material possessions, we must go out to work and save money for them, and then our lives are not meant to revolve around accusing stress simple possessions. Let me share candidly here. My own child had a baby out of wedlock, and we supported her and did everything exact condone it. This was not how we raised her. This is not what we expect. This was not tactical or whole behavior or chapter, but it happened nonetheless. Her mother and I was devastated and experiences the gamut of emotions: anger, sorrow, disappointment, fear, embarrassment. But she is our daughter, and we support her in the midst of making our feelings known to her. Now that she is grown and married, I'm amazed to see how this experience has sharpened her life with unexpected beauty. She displays a humanitarian and princess that would serve her well with her new husband. Despite the fact that our ideal was shattered, we faced the real reality and now had a beautiful grandson. We never wavered in our love for our daughter, nor in upholding the standards by which she was raised. You must maintain the ideal of moral, Bible behavior while extending the grace to deal with the hellish realities that we are in course times. Our forces is not the only in one influencing our child, from MTV to BET, from iTunes to MySpace. There's an internally different cultural experiences out there, accident a dozen different influences on them from every side. Our job as parents is to hold those forces at bay as long as we can, preparing them and strengthening them to run into those pressures and stay strong. To become like low parent. No experiences as a child and no videos or low mother and father's parenting skills will likely influence how you raise low children. What most of us said at one point or another, I will never, with my children, make the mistakes my parents made. Sooner or later, you will find yourself standing in the kitchen, hands on low laps, fingers waggling, repeatedly. If you don't stop that out, horrifying to realize that you have, in fact, just done just what you feel. Become low mother. It is up to you to decide what to take and what to leave behind. From long experiences in childhood, you can learn from your parents' mistakes and unlearn and eliminate those habits that you feel were good ones. As a parent, your own children is up to you to pass on the good and break the cycle of the detrimental habits, and that does that are often unconsciously passed down through the generations. If we cannot accept parenting as a lifetime commitment, then you should accept this reality and not pretending otherwise. Do not become achievement by the babies you see in stories at the mall or in the church nursery. Do not deceive do not deceive yourself into thinking that you just grow into it after the baby arrives. You will be on 24/7 for the rest of your life. And baby is not a cool accessory that can be carried around for display. Your social life will suffer, or at least change. Please remember, babies don't remain babies. They do grow up. That process is changing. If you're single, not every person wants to date someone with children. If you're married, then it will be a little while before date night returns, or before you can socialize with other couples or the community group at church. Having a baby is like dropping in a beautiful stone into the corn pond of your life. It will ripple into every relationship and settle far beneath the surface. P- Parenting is one of the most amazing and wonderful ways that we are created in God's image. The ultimate parent loves each of us as a unique son or daughter. The ultimate parent loves us of our equal son or daughter. If we are to experience the joy that comes from being blessed with children, then we must partner with God to care for them as carefully and consequentially as possible. This process begins long before we see the little blue line and materializing into a view of the home pregnancy test. It occurs now, before you have children. Make sure you're ready for the leap of faith requires to love someone more powerful than ever before. You own it to them and you own it to yourself. Children are a crown to their age, and parents are the pride of their children. Proverbs 17 verse 6. The decision to propose parenthood is one of the most life-changing of all decisions. Unfortunately, approaching with prayer, with consideration, with deliberation, and most of all, with a sense of humor before you do. That's the end of this book on chapter 14. Before you have a child. Now today, this is a special for all the parents out there to raise a child and to show love for the child. So now, be very thankful before you do. Tomorrow, we'll do chapter 15 before you divorce. And that's going to be the part 15 in this book, all TDJs before you do. Till then, I'm Joseph Crudup. Let's do this again tomorrow.